Come closer, my beloved. Not with effort, not with striving, but with a quiet willingness of your breath slowing and your shoulders easing. I am not calling you to perform. I am inviting you to rest in a moment that has been waiting for you longer than you realize. You have arrived here not by accident, not by chance, and not because you searched hard enough. You are here because something within you leaned toward stillness instead of noise, toward truth instead of distraction, toward a gentle question that has been echoing beneath everything else. This is a threshold moment, even if it feels small, especially if it feels small. The most important shifts often begin as a whisper rather than a wave. I know how much you carry. I know how often you have had to be strong when you wanted to be held. I know how you have learned to keep parts of yourself guarded, even from hope. You did that to survive, and I do not condemn you for it. But now, precious one, survival is no longer the season you are standing in. Something deeper is being asked of you, not demanded. Asked. Before anything else unfolds, before clarity arrives or decisions are made, I want you to feel this first. You are safe here. You are not being rushed. You are not being cornered. You are being invited into honesty. Let the noise settle. Let the urgency of the world fade to the edges. There is a quieter urgency now, one that does not shout but persists, one that says this moment matters. Breathe. You do not need to know everything yet. You only need to be willing to listen. My child, listen to the question as it truly is, not as fear tries to twist it. When I ask, can I trust you with this? I am not testing your worth. I am revealing your significance. There are moments when timing itself leans in, when the air feels slightly different, when delay would cost more than action. This is one of those moments, not because danger is chasing you, but because clarity is approaching, and clarity requires readiness. You have sensed it, haven't you? That subtle pressure in your chest, not heavy but insistent. The feeling that something important is forming just beyond what you can fully articulate. You may have tried to ignore it, to stay busy, to tell yourself it can wait. Yet here you are. This is why you need this now. Not later, when circumstances are perfect. Not someday, when you feel braver. Now, while your heart is still tender enough to respond. Trust is not about certainty. Trust is about consent. It is about opening your hands instead of clenching them around what feels familiar but no longer fits. I am not asking you to leap into darkness. I am asking you to notice the light that has already begun to dawn. There is information meant for you, guidance shaped specifically to your life, but it cannot be forced upon you. It must be carried willingly. Like water in a fragile vessel, it requires care, attention, and presence. That is why the question comes first. Can I trust you to pause long enough to hear what matters? Can I trust you to choose depth over distraction? Can I trust you to stay when it would be easier to scroll past, to numb out, to postpone? This urgency is not pressure. It is alignment. It is the quiet convergence of readiness and opportunity. You have been prepared in ways you do not yet recognize. Through disappointment that sharpened your discernment. Through waiting that strengthened your endurance. Through moments of silence that taught you to listen. You may feel unqualified. You may feel unsure. Those feelings do not disqualify you. They make you attentive. If this were not the right time, you would feel nothing. Indifference would have wrapped around you like fog. But instead, something in you is awake. Something is leaning forward. I am not asking you to have all the answers. I am asking you to stay present with a question, to let it open you rather than intimidate you. This is crucial not because you are behind, but because you are closer than you think. The door is not somewhere far away in the future. It is in front of you now, subtle and unforced, waiting for your hand. Trust does not begin with confidence. It begins with willingness. And you, my beloved, are more willing than you realize. My precious one, before anything else is asked of you, I need you to know this deeply, not as an idea but as a felt truth resting in your chest. You have been seen the entire time. Not just the version of you that shows up for others, not only the composed face you wear when the world is watching, but the quieter version too. The one that sits alone with unanswered questions. The one that wonders if the effort has been worth it. The one that carries grief without always having language for it. Nothing about you has been hidden from me. I have seen the nights when your thoughts would not settle, when you replayed conversations, choices, and missed chances, wondering if you somehow fell behind an invisible line. I have seen the mornings when you rose anyway, even when your spirit felt heavier than your body. I have seen how you learned to keep going while gently setting aside parts of yourself that felt too tender to expose again. You did not imagine the weight. You were not being dramatic. You were responding to real pressure, real loss, real uncertainty. And you adapted the only way you knew how. That does not make you weak. It makes you human. And more than that, it makes you resilient in ways you rarely give yourself credit for. There were moments you thought no one noticed your restraint, your patience, the way you held your tongue, the way you stayed when leaving would have been easier. There were seasons when you felt overlooked, as if your faithfulness happened in rooms with no witnesses. But hear me now, my child, nothing was wasted. Not a single tear that fell quietly. Not a single prayer that felt unanswered. Not a single effort that seemed to disappear into silence. Even the delay served a purpose. Even the detours shaped you. You were learning discernment when you thought you were just enduring. You were developing depth when you believed you were standing still. I know the longing you rarely speak aloud. The desire to be understood without having to explain yourself. The hope that someone might see past your competence and notice your heart. That longing was not misplaced. It was pointing you toward truth, not away from it. You may look back and label parts of your story as mistakes or failures, but I see them as chapters of formation. You were learning what does not sustain you so you could recognize what will. You were discovering where you end and where you must allow help to begin. You have not been forgotten in the waiting. Waiting was not a sign of neglect. It was a sign of care. Some things require readiness, not just desire. And readiness grows quietly, beneath the surface, long before it becomes visible. I see how you question yourself now, how you wonder if you missed your moment, if you waited too long, if others have moved ahead while you remain. That comparison is not truth speaking. It is impatience borrowing the voice of fear. Your path has never been behind. It has been precise. You are known more fully than you know yourself. Known in your courage and in your hesitation. Known in your hope and in your exhaustion. Known in your faith and in your doubt. None of it disqualifies you. None of it surprises me. Let yourself rest in this knowing. You do not need to prove your sincerity. You do not need to justify your pace. You are allowed to be exactly where you are without shame. Being seen is not about exposure. It is about safety. And you, my beloved, are safe enough now to continue. My beloved, this is the moment where stillness becomes meaningful. Not because everything suddenly makes sense, but because you have arrived at the edge where drifting is no longer neutral. There are seasons when waiting protects you, and there are moments when waiting begins to quietly cost you. This is how you know the difference. One feels like rest. The other feels like avoidance dressed as patience. You are standing at a threshold now. A threshold is not loud. It does not announce itself with spectacle. It is often marked by a gentle tension, a sense that remaining exactly as you are requires more energy than taking one honest step forward. You may feel this as restlessness, or as a repeated inner nudge that returns no matter how often you try to set it aside. This is not pressure. It is clarity asking for consent. If you step back, nothing will collapse immediately. Life will continue. Days will pass. You will still function. But something subtle will dim. The sharpness of your awareness will soften. The question will grow quieter, not because it was answered, but because it was ignored. That is how drifting happens. Not through rebellion, but through postponement. If you step forward, you are not promising perfection. You are not guaranteeing outcomes. You are simply agreeing to remain awake, to stay present with what is being revealed instead of numbing yourself with what is familiar. This moment matters because it is a convergence. Your experiences have prepared you. Your discernment has matured. Your heart has been stretched enough to hold more truth without breaking. Earlier in your life, this invitation would have overwhelmed you. Later, it might be harder to hear. Now it fits. You may be waiting for certainty, for a feeling of absolute confidence that washes away hesitation. But certainty rarely comes before movement. It follows it. What comes first is alignment, a quiet recognition that even with unanswered questions, you know which direction feels honest. This is where clarity and drifting part ways. Clarity does not mean knowing every step. It means choosing not to abandon yourself. Drifting begins when you tell yourself you will decide later, while something within you knows later is a way of saying never without admitting it. I am not asking you to rush. I am asking you not to disappear from your own life. Notice what is being illuminated right now. The patterns that no longer serve you. The conversations you have avoided having. The truths you have sensed but not yet spoken, even to yourself. These are not accusations. They are invitations to wholeness. Standing at a threshold can feel uncomfortable because it removes excuses. You cannot blame circumstances the same way. You cannot pretend you do not know. Awareness has a weight, but it also carries dignity. You are being trusted with awareness because you are capable of responding to it. Do not underestimate the power of choosing presence over delay. One honest decision can recalibrate years of wandering. One moment of courage can restore momentum you thought was lost. This is not about forcing change. It is about allowing alignment, about letting your inner life and your outer choices begin to speak the same language again. You are not being pushed through the door. The door is open because you are ready to see it. Whether you step through is yours to choose. I will not withdraw if you hesitate. I will not abandon you if you are afraid. But I will tell you the truth, gently and clearly. This moment will not repeat itself in the same way. The invitation may return, but it will sound different. Responding now allows growth to unfold with grace rather than regret. So pause here. Feel your feet on the ground. Feel the breath in your chest. You are not lost. You are not late. You are standing exactly where a decision becomes sacred. And whatever you choose, choose it await. My child, before you can move freely, you must see clearly what has been standing in your way. Not to judge it, not to fight it, simply to name it, so it no longer rules you from the shadows. You have mistaken some barriers for parts of your personality. You have said, "This is just how I am," when in truth, These were responses you learned in order to survive. They are understandable. They are familiar. But they are not you. One of the barriers is doubt. Not the healthy kind that asks thoughtful questions, but the quieter doubt that whispers you are behind, unprepared, or somehow less capable than others. This doubt did not begin inside you. It was planted through disappointment, through moments when you trusted and felt let down, through times when your effort did not produce the outcome you hoped for. Outlearn your voice and now tries to speak as if it were wisdom. It is not. Another barrier is fear, but not fear of failure alone. You also fear success. You fear what might be asked of you if you fully step into alignment. You fear being seen more clearly, because visibility once came with criticism or pressure. So you learn to stay just hidden enough to remain safe. That strategy protected you then. It constrains you now. There is hesitation too. Hesitation that dresses itself as discernment. You tell yourself you are being careful, waiting for the right moment, gathering more information. And sometimes that is true. But sometimes hesitation is simply fear that has learned polite language. It keeps you circling instead of choosing. It keeps you rehearsing instead of living. Confusion has also played a role. Not confusion because truth is absent, but because too many voices have competed for your attention. Advice, expectations, comparisons, imagined futures. When everything speaks at once, clarity feels impossible. So you delay, hoping the noise will resolve itself. But noise rarely quiets on its own. It must be intentionally set aside. External influences have pressed against you as well. Other people's timelines, other people's opinions, other people's comfort with who you used to be. Not everyone benefits from your growth. Some prefer you predictable, manageable, unchanged. Their resistance may be subtle, even well-meaning, but it has weight. And you have felt it. Let me be clear with you now, gently and without accusation. None of these barriers define your identity. You are not your doubt. You are not your fear. You are not your hesitation or your confusion. These are experiences that pass through you, not truths that live at your core. At your core is awareness. At your core is discernment. At your core is a quiet strength that has endured far more than you admit. The barriers exist because something valuable is being protected. But protection can become a prison when it is no longer examined. You do not need to destroy these barriers. You only need to stop mistaking them for guardians. Thank them for the season they served, and then loosen their grip. Notice how different it feels to say, "I experience doubt," instead of, "I am doubtful." One is a passing weather pattern. The other becomes a climate. You were never meant to live under constant overcast. Notice how fear softens when it is seen instead of obeyed. Fear loses power when it is named without shame. You are allowed to acknowledge what scares you without letting it decide for you. Confusion clears not when every question is answered, but when you choose which voices no longer get to speak. Silence is not emptiness. It is space, and space is where truth breathes. You may feel resistance as these barriers are exposed. That is normal. They have been with you a long time. But do not confuse familiarity with necessity. You are not betraying yourself by outgrowing what once kept you safe. I am not disappointed in you for carrying these things. I am proud of you for surviving with them. And now, my beloved, I am inviting you to imagine what it would feel like to walk without so much weight. You do not have to push through the door by force. The hinges are already loosening. Awareness is the key, and you are more capable than the barriers ever wanted you to believe. My beloved, Now that the noise has softened and the barriers have been named, I want you to hear what has been quietly waiting beneath everything else. Not a bargain, not a reward system, not a transaction where effort is exchanged for outcome. What I reveal to you now is a promise of relationship, of alignment, of a way of being that restores rather than exhausts. The promise is peace, but not the fragile kind that depends on circumstances behaving. This peace settles deeper. It steadies you even when questions remain unanswered. It is the calm of knowing you are no longer divided within yourself, no longer pulled in opposite directions by fear and longing. Peace is what happens when your inner life and your outer steps begin to agree. The promise is healing, but not the erasure of memory. Healing does not pretend wounds never happened. It integrates them. It allows what once hurt you to become part of your wisdom instead of a source of ongoing pain. You will remember, but you will no longer relive. The past will lose its authority to interrupt the present. The promise is clarity, not as a sudden flood of information, but as a steady light that reveals one step at a time. You will begin to recognize what aligns with you and what drains you. Decisions will feel less like battles and more like recognitions. You will still pause. You will still consider. But you will no longer be paralyzed. The promise is restoration, not of an old version of you, but of what was always meant to grow. You have not lost your depth. You have not missed your calling. You have not aged out of possibility. What feels dormant has been resting, not dying. Restoration is gentle. It does not rush you back into motion. It invites you to move forward without leaving yourself behind. The promise is forward movement, but not frantic striving. This movement has rhythm. It honors your limits. It respects your humanity. You will no longer feel like you are constantly catching up or falling short. Progress will feel sustainable because it is rooted in truth rather than pressure. Hear me carefully now. None of this is earned by proving yourself. None of this arrives because you finally get everything right. This promise unfolds because you remain in relationship, because you stay present, because you choose honesty over performance. I am not offering you a life without difficulty. I am offering you a life without abandonment. You will not face your questions alone. You will not carry your growth in isolation. Even when the path stretches ahead with uncertainty, you will sense a companionship that steadies your steps. There will be moments when you feel tempted to measure this promise by external markers, by speed, by visibility, by approval. But those measures are too small. The real evidence will be internal. A quieter nervous system, a steadier breath, a growing ability to respond rather than react, a sense of being at home within yourself. This promise does not demand that you become someone else. It invites you to become more fully who you already are. The parts of you that felt fragmented will begin to integrate. The contradictions will soften. You will stop fighting yourself in order to please others or to feel safe. And yes, joy is part of this promise. Not constant happiness, but a deepening capacity to notice beauty again, to laugh without guilt, to rest without justification, to hope without bracing for disappointment. You do not have to grasp this promise tightly. It is not fragile. It does not slip away if you hesitate, but it does respond to openness. It unfolds where there is willingness. It breathes where there is trust. This is what waits on the other side of fear. Not perfection, not certainty, but a life that feels true. And that, my precious one, is a promise worth receiving. My child, there comes a moment when effort can no longer take you where honesty must lead. This is that moment. A lot of dramatic collapse. not a forced release. Simply a quiet recognition that some things you have been carrying were never meant to be held this tightly or this long. Surrender hath been misunderstood by you. You were taught, perhaps subtly, that surrender means loss, weakness, or defeat. But what I offer you now is different. This surrender is not about giving up who you are. It is about laying down what has been weighing you down so you can finally stand upright again. Notice what you are gripping: the need to control outcomes, the pressure to anticipate every possible risk, the responsibility you assume for keeping everyone else steady, even when you were not, the guilt you carry for moments you wish you had handled differently, the anxiety that tells you if you relax, everything will fall apart. You have been strong for so long that you forgot strength was never meant to feel like constant tension. I am not asking you to drop everything at once. I am inviting you into an exchange. Sacred, mutual, and deeply personal. You release what exhausts you, and in its place, you receive what sustains you. Release the need to be endlessly vigilant. In its place, receive trust. Not blind trust, but grounded trust. The kind that allows you to sleep without rehearsing tomorrow's disasters. The kind that reminds you that you do not have to foresee everything to be supported through anything. Release the guilt that replays old scenes in your mind. In its place, receive compassion. Not indulgence, but understanding. The understanding that you acted with the awareness you had at the time, and that growth does not require self-punishment to be valid. Release the anxiety that tightens your chest and shortens your breath. In its place, receive presence. Presence anchors you in what is real now, not what might go wrong later. Presence brings your nervous system back into alignment with the truth that you are not under constant threat. Release the false responsibility for other people's emotions, choices, and healing. In its place, receive boundaries that protect your energy without hardening your heart. Boundaries are not walls. They are doors with intention. This exchange does not happen through force. It happens through permission. Through moments when you pause and say, quietly and honestly, I do not want to carry this anymore. That sentence is not failure. It is wisdom. You may fear that without your constant effort, you will become careless or detached. But notice how exhaustion has already dulled your joy. Notice how overfunctioning has narrowed your vision. True surrender does not make you passive. It makes you responsive. It frees your attention to notice what actually matters. There will be moments when you instinctively reach for old burdens again. Habits of control and worry do not dissolve overnight. When this happens, do not shame yourself. Simply notice. Gently return what does not belong to you. This is a practice, not a performance. What you receive in this sacred exchange is subtle at first. A little more space in your chest. A little less urgency in your thoughts. A growing sense that you are allowed to be human without constant self-surveillance. Over time, this exchange deepens. Stress no longer defines your baseline. Guilt loses its grip. Anxiety becomes a signal rather than a ruler. You begin to feel held rather than braced. You are not losing anything essential by surrendering. You are returning to yourself. To the part of you that knows how to breathe deeply. To the part of you that can be still without fear. To the part of you that trusts that being carried does not mean being diminished. Come now, my beloved. Open your hands. Not because you are empty, but because you are ready to receive what was always meant to be yours. My beloved, what unfolds within you must learn how to walk with you through ordinary days. Alignment is not proven in moments of insight alone. It is lived in the quiet choices you make when no one is watching, when life feels simple, repetitive, or demanding in small ways rather than dramatic ones. This is where peace becomes practical. Begin with your breath, not as a technique to master, but as a companion you return to. When you notice yourself rushing, tightening, or scattering, let your breath remind you that you are here. One slow inhale, one gentle release. This is not escape, it is grounding. Breaths begin to again and again. Pay attention to how you give your time. Time is not just hours on a clock. It is attention, energy, and intention combined. Notice where your time leaves you nourished and where it leaves you depleted. Alignment does not demand that you eliminate everything draining at once. It asks that you become honest. Honesty allows small adjustments that compound into freedom. Your focus is precious. You live in a world skilled at pulling it apart. When your focus is scattered, your nervous system pays the price. Practice choosing one thing at a time. One conversation. One task. One moment. This simplicity is not limitation. It is devotion to what is real. Notice your relationships. Some connections feel like shelter. Others feel like performance. Alignment does not require you to sever bonds abruptly or dramatically. It invites you to show up as yourself rather than as who you think you must be to be accepted. Where authenticity is met with respect, remain open. Where it is met with resistance, let distance teach you without bitterness. Steward your energy with kindness. Rest is not a reward for productivity. It is a requirement for clarity. When you rest, you are not falling behind. You are recalibrating. Even brief moments of stillness, intentionally chosen, remind your body that it is safe to stop bracing. Let peace become your internal compass. When faced with a decision, notice not only what seems logical, but what brings a sense of quiet alignment. Peace does not always mean ease. Sometimes it accompanies courage, but it will not feel frantic. It will not demand that you betray yourself. When conflict arises, and it will, respond rather than react. Reaction comes from old fear. Response comes from presence. Pause long enough to feel your feet, your breath, your center. From there speak. From there choose. You will be surprised how much strength lies in that pause. Be gentle with your expectations. Growth is rarely linear. There will be days when you feel clear and grounded, and days when old patterns resurface. This does not mean you are failing. It means you are human. Alignment is not about never drifting. It is about noticing sooner and returning with compassion. Create small rituals that anchor you. A moment of silence in the morning. A reflective pause at night. A walk where you let your senses guide you back into your body. These are not obligations. They are invitations to remember who you are beneath the noise. As you practice these alignments, something subtle changes. You stop chasing peace and begin to recognize it. You stop forcing clarity and begin to notice it arriving naturally. Life does not become effortless, but it becomes coherent. Your inner world and outer actions begin to speak the same language. This is how trust deepens. Not through grand gestures, but through consistency. Through showing up for yourself in ordinary moments. Through choosing presence when distraction is easier. Through honoring your limits without apology. Walk gently, my child. Alignment is not a destination you rush toward. It is a way of moving that allows you to feel accompanied in every step. And you are not walking alone. My precious one, everything now comes to a single, gentle convergence. Not a demand, not a test. Simply a choice placed in your hands with reverence. You have been led here slowly, carefully, so that when this moment arrived, you would recognize it not as pressure, but as dignity. Choice is sacred because it honors who you are. You are not asked to become someone new in an instant. You are invited to choose how you will stand in the truth you already feel stirring within you. You are invited to decide whether you will continue to live divided, or whether you will begin to live aligned, even imperfectly, even tenderly. This choice does not require noise. It does not require announcement. It can be made quietly, in the privacy of your own awareness. What matters is not how dramatic it looks from the outside, but how honest it feels on the inside. You choose when you stop postponing your own life. You choose when you stop waiting for permission you no longer need. You choose when you let presence matter more than fear. Choosing does not mean you will never hesitate again. It means hesitation no longer drives. It sits in the passenger seat, acknowledged but not obeyed. You are allowed to be cautious and courageous at the same time. There is power in speaking what is true, not to convince the world, but to anchor yourself. Words shape attention. When spoken gently and sincerely, declarations become pathways your nervous system can follow. So if it feels right, let these words form within you. You do not need to say them perfectly. You do not need to say them loudly. Let them settle like breath. I choose to trust what is being revealed to me, even when I do not yet see the whole path. I choose to stay present with my life instead of disappearing into delay or distraction. I choose to release what no longer serves me, without resentment and without shame. I choose to listen to peace as a guide, not as an escape. I choose to honor my limits while remaining open to growth. I choose to respond from truth rather than react from fear. As you let these declarations take root, notice how your body responds. Perhaps your shoulders soften. Perhaps your breath deepens. Perhaps nothing dramatic happens at all. Still, something has shifted. A quiet internal agreement has been made. This is not a one-time vow. It is a living choice that will be renewed in small ways. Each time you pause instead of rushing. Each time you speak honestly instead of performing. Each time you rest without guilt. Each time you take one aligned step instead of 10 frantic ones. You may worry that you will forget this moment, that the world will pull you back into old patterns. And sometimes it will. But awareness changes the return. You will notice sooner. You will come back faster. You will be kinder to yourself in the process. I am not asking you to be fearless. I am asking you to be faithful to what you know is true. Faithfulness is not intensity. It is consistency. It is choosing again, even after you falter. Let this choice be simple. Let it be human. Let it be real. You are not standing at the beginning of something fragile. You are standing in the middle of something enduring. The ground beneath you is steady because it is built on honesty, not illusion. Whatever unfolds next will unfold with you, not against you. You are not late. You are not unprepared. You are not alone. Choose gently. Choose consciously. Choose awake. And when you do, know this, my beloved, I am with you in the choosing, in the becoming, and in every step that follows. Come, my beloved, and rest here for a moment before you rise again into your life. Let what has been spoken settle gently, like dust falling after a long journey. Nothing more is required of you right now. You do not need to rush to apply, explain, or perfect anything. What matters has already been received. You have crossed something quietly sacred, not because everything is resolved, but because you are no longer pretending you are unaware. Awareness has softened you, not hardened you. and that softness is strength. As you move forward, remember this feeling. Not the words themselves, but the tone beneath them. The steadiness, the permission, the calm urgency that did not demand, but invited. When the world grows loud again, return to the tone. It will guide you back to yourself. You will have ordinary days. You will have complicated moments. You will sometimes forget how clear this fell. That is not failure. That is life. Each time you remember, even faintly, alignment will begin again. You will recognize the door. You will recognize the breath. You will recognize the choice. Carry this seal with you, not as pressure but as reassurance. When doubt asks if you are capable, remember that you were trusted with awareness. When fear asks if it is safe to continue, remember how peace felt when you stopped running. When hesitation whispers that you should wait, remember that you are already standing where honesty lives. I bless your steps with gentleness. I bless your timing with patience. I bless your courage with compassion for yourself. You are not required to be flawless. You are invited to be present, and presence will continue to open the way. So go now, my precious one, not burdened, not rushed, not alone. Go wait. Go steady. Go with a quiet confidence that something true has been placed in your care. Can I trust you with this? There's a crucial reason you need this now. And now you know why.